We are more than halfway through the list of 7 movies that I'm watching, 7 horror movies. Today we're going to talk about The People Under the Stairs. The People Under the Stairs came out in 1991. It is about a 13-year-old boy named Fool. Fool lives in the ghetto. The building is dilapidated. It has gone way past hell. It looks like an infection is right around the corner. It looks like you need to take a shower after you walk through that building to get to the apartment. So Fool and his family are in a bad way because they are late on the rent. The landlord's policy is if you are 3 days late on the rent, you have to pay triple the rent. You have to pay triple the rent in like 3 days in order to stay, and they ain't got that kind of money. So the local pimp Leroy has a brilliant idea. Word on the street is that there is treasure in the landlord's home, and so he's trying to make a man out of Fool because it's the ghetto, so you gotta go up quick. So he enlists Fool and this man named Spencer to help him break into the house and find this gold, because if they can find that money, Fool's family can pay the rent, and he can also get medical treatment for his ailing mother. But the thing is that the landlords keep a house of horrors. So 3 people go in the house. How many will come out? I love the movie. I love Fool as a character. The movie is very suspenseful. It is scary, there's gore, there's body horror, but not too much. Like, the body horror is in your face, but it's practical. And so I like the special effects, like the makeup and stuff like that. It's practical. It's not like gory just to be gory. There's a point to it. It makes the point and it moves on. The movie is very creepy. There are multiple levels, multiple layers of creepiness in this movie, and it's all purposeful, which I really like. It's also a little bit funny. There's a little bit of comedy in there. It gives me Home Alone vibes purely because you have this child trying to survive these 2 adults, and like I said, there is a comedic aspect which works. They never take it too far to where the villains lose their creepiness. They are creepy, they are scary. They come close to being silly, like they're silly a little bit. They come close to being too silly and losing the edge, but they don't. They keep the edge. So yeah, let's talk about it. First of all, I am definitely somebody's auntie, because when I was watching this movie, the vulgarity that Leroy spews towards Fool is like, I was clutching my pearls. Like, that is a child. I was thinking about the actor, like, what did he receive help? Because it's not appropriate to be like, it's one thing to be cursing around a child actor, but like, talk about pussy. I'm just like, was he looked after on set, to make sure that, like, this isn't real, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. This was the 90s, so I don't know. But yeah, I was cringing, like, don't say stuff like that around him. Anyways, I really enjoyed Fool as a character. He was brave, he was heroic, he had a strong sense of justice. He has a big heart. It's very endearing to watch these 2 kids, Fool and Alice, looking after each other and trying to help each other out and trying to save each other and trying to, like, make sure they both get out of this house of horrors. There's foreshadowing at the very beginning where Fool's sister, she reads the tarot cards and she says the Fool character symbol in the tarot cards will go towards the sun, and the boy part of him will burn away and he'll come out the other side as a man. Now, I don't like the whole man of the house thing for boy children. I don't like that messaging in movies, and that's especially prevalent in like older movies. I think it's harmful to the socialization of boys and people's perception of boys. So I didn't care for that. But the point being that, like, he goes through the sun, he goes through the fire, he has the hero's journey, and he comes out the other side, still a child, but he comes out the other side changed. And he also changed his family's life, his neighborhood's life, although we'll get to that. And he changed Alice's life. He saved her. So I mentioned that the movie has different levels of creepy, all of which work for me, all of which are very effective. The people under the stairs are actually the least creepy, least scary part of this movie. The scariest part of this movie is actually Alice's situation. Alice is in an abusive home, verbally, emotionally, and physically and sexually abusive. So I like how the movie tells you what's going on. I think the creepiest scene in the movie is the first scene of mommy, daddy, and Alice in Alice's room. After, you know, when the woman, she's credited as the woman, they call each other mommy and daddy, but the woman is, you know, talking about Alice like, you know, where's the fork? Did you lick this plate clean? And then the man walks in and he's like, I'm tense. And she's like, are you having one of your headaches? And he's like, yeah, like it's a bad one or whatever. And she says the creepiest, worst line I've heard in a long time, in a good way. It just sends my imagination to like the worst place. And it's the line where she says, remember not to bruise her face. And so you see Alice is like shaking and afraid, and you see him pull out his belt and he wraps it around his finger. And so then you slip into a little bit of denial and you're like, oh, maybe it's not the worst that I'm thinking. Maybe he's just like hitting her. You know, because she says, remember not to bruise her face, and then, you know, he wraps the belt, so you think he's just gonna be like spanking her, hitting her. But then there are two things that happen. Number one, when Alice is tied up in the attic and he walks in that getup, that's another creepy aspect of the movie, is that damn BDSM getup he's got going on. He walks in, he's walking towards her, and he grabs his crotch, and you're like, okay. I mean, aside from the fact that Alice is dressed in white, in virginal white, you know, that's a clue that like she is being touched. But when he grabs his crotch, it's like, yep. Wes Craven said, who, you know, wrote and directed the movie, says, if you thought, nah, I'm gonna take away that security blanket, it is definitely happening. There's that. There's also a scene not too far after that one where he grabs his crotch, where he's like complaining to the woman, and he's like, she's done it with him, I know it. And he's like complaining about it and is like sad about the fact that she's been with somebody else. It is so nasty, but effective. Alice's situation is the scariest part of the movie. There's a line she says to Fool where she says, I do not see or hear or speak evil. And a tear falls down her face. And it's like, ooh, because you know she sees and hears and feels evil. Not just the evil that's been done to others, but the evil that is done to her whenever daddy feels tense. And also at the hands of the mother as well. Alice is a great character, very sympathetic. The second creepiest thing is mommy and daddy's dynamic. The infantilization of this grown-ass man, learning that they're not a traditional couple, they are brother and sister. The way they interact with each other, the way they interact, just the way they speak is so creepy. I think that the woman and the man are terrific villains. So there's commentary in the movie. The main commentary in the movie is about landlords, or more specifically slumlords. These rich, white, that part being important, Christian, also important, capitalist people. They do not care about the neighborhood. They do not care about the people in the neighborhood. They specifically don't care about the black people in the neighborhood. The movie dropped the hard ER, which took all three of us, because again, I'm watching this with my sister and my friend, took all three of us by surprise. My stomach dropped, personally speaking. I just was not expecting to be accosted with the hard ER in this movie, but it happened. So they are racist. They're obsessed with hell and burning in hell, completely delusional to how, you know, hypocritical they are within their religion, and how evil they are. They are obsessed with Alice's purity. This movie plays, so there is racial hierarchy, like racial deference in this movie. So not just like these people are racist, but like within the material of this movie, and I don't because sometimes, like, as a black person watching these movies, especially when it's like racial commentary or racial elements written by someone who is white, or even like something that's like, you know, treating feminism but it's written by a man, like, I sometimes have to differentiate between like what is purposeful and what may be the person's like own like bias coming in. Because why did Fool call Alice Miss? What did that have to do with anything? They're both kids. He's like, why did he call her Miss? So there's an insertion of racial difference, and I'm not confident that that was purposeful on Wes Craven's part. There's also a play on white people's anxieties about black boys, and to a certain extent black men, but Fool's a boy, where at a certain point the woman says, he's still in there with our little angel. So is this play, and that's not the only time where it's like this hinting, this leaning on the possibility that Fool may tarnish Alice by virtue of the fact that he's black. Never mind what daddy is doing to her and what the mom is allowing him to do to her, but his blackness is worse. It's a worst case scenario than what they're doing. So there's a leaning on that. There's a whole lot of like, they ask Alice like, what did he do to you? What did you do to her? And then of course there's daddy, like I said before, saying that like, she's been with him, I know it, she's a whore. Yeah, so there's that. That I do think is on purpose because of, you know, he writes them as racist. But I'm just not sure about Fool calling Alice Miss, because why? So I really like that the movie takes the slumlord reality and the I saw other write-ups that said like, you know, gentrification, but I feel like this is more, I guess, yeah, I feel like this is like the beginning of gentrification, because there's no one moving into the neighborhood. Like, it's still made up of the people who are already there, the poor people who are in the ghetto. They're turning the buildings into, I don't know, like businesses or whatever. But there's no sense of new people moving in, white people moving in, people in higher classes who make higher incomes moving in. There's no sense of that in the movie. So I don't really like, there's not a praise for this movie about like its handling of class or commentary on class. I don't really see that. I think it's mostly racial. I think it's mostly racial commentary, a little bit of class, just specifically with white capitalist developers coming in and taking people's homes out from under them. We really don't spend a lot of time in the ghetto or exploring the situation in the ghetto, or really exploring a wider community, even though one exists. I would need that in order to like validate for the claims about like its exploration of class and stuff like that to really be valid for me. But I think it does a really good job with commentary on the slumlords. So it takes the nastiness and evilness that is required to have a rule where like if you're late on the rent, you have like 3 days to pay it 3 times more, and it exaggerates that nastiness and that inhumaneness by portraying the landlords as perverted, as deviant. So they've got the incest thing going on. They've got the BDSM costume thing going on. They are murderers. They are cannibalists, hypocritical Christians, child abusers. Like it just really like heaps all this extra stuff on them. But the base thing is that they are inhumane capitalists who are buying people out, and they do not care about these people. And not just black people, although our main characters are black, because Fool's building is diverse. Like there are white people in there as well, not just black people. So those are all the good. I really enjoyed the movie. There are some slight bads. Number one, this movie is too long. They could have shaved 30 minutes off of it and we would have been good. The random appearance of Fool's family and like the whole neighborhood at the woman's door knocking and trying to like fight for their rights to like not be kicked out or whatever for better treatment, that was random. And really the biggest thing for me, the biggest con is I wish there was more to the people under the stairs. And I mean the actual people who are under the stairs. First of all, Alice tells us that those are boys that the woman and the man kidnapped because they wanted a boy. Other than Roach, them people look like extras from the Thriller video. Adults. One of them is buffer than a bit. And the woman and the man are not old enough to have children that look that damn old. I feel like it would have worked better if all of them were Roach's age. I kind of don't really understand why they're so disfigured, but because it's like, how long have these people been down there? Anyways, but I wish there was more to the people under the stairs, because I read that Wes Craven's inspiration for that part of the movie came from a real life true crime story from the 70s. Police found that an affluent couple was keeping their 2 children in the basement or like under the stairs, keeping them captive, like not letting them out. So that was the inspiration. And it reads like this is just an appendage in the movie. What does it have to do with like the whole landlord bit? Like, I wish there was an actual tie, period, between these people who are under the stairs and the landlords. Like, I wish it had something to do with that rather than some random like, oh, they wanted a boy child and so they've been kidnapping boys. There is no missing child element in this movie at all. Not a newspaper, not a discussion about children who are missing, absolutely nothing. I read that Jordan Peele is going to remake this movie, and I am excited for that. I think he's going to do a lot to improve it. I enjoyed the movie. I give it a 3 out of 5. Nevertheless, I think Jordan will elevate it, mainly because Jordan Peele he's good. He's also black. I just think that commentary, like racial commentary, will always hit better and be more complete coming from someone who's black. I don't know if Jordan Peele has ever lived in a damn ghetto, but he is black and he's part of the community. It will be more grounded. He is less likely to miss subtleties than Wes Craven. One thing I feel is that in terms of the people under the stairs, like I said, Fool lives in a mixed building. That's why it's hard for me to take this movie as like, gentrification. Gentrification is often spoken about in a racialized sense, but it is not only racialized. Like, poor white people also get kicked out of their neighborhoods. And I think that's what's missing from this movie. I think that's what I wish the people under the stairs could have been. I don't know how that could have worked. I would need more time to think about it. But as it is, it just seems like this is something that happens like to black people. Most of the people who came to the door are black. But yeah, there's something missing from this movie. There's something incomplete about it. I hope that Jordan Peele's version will be more well-rounded. I do like the ending. I like that the ending is a perfect ending for a child. From the point of view of a child, I like that aspect, because that money that the people are grabbing, Fool's family is gonna be good till 2001 at the very least. But the rest of these people, like, they'll still gotta figure out what they're gonna do, where they're gonna go. From an adult lens, it's a bit more complicated for these people, for the rest of these people in the neighborhood, than it is for Fool's family. But, he got the money out, the people have access to it, so everything's gonna be fine. Those are my thoughts on The People Under the Stairs. Great movie. I've actually watched it twice. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you next time, where we're gonna talk about the fabulousness that is Barbarian.